Good morning. I hope you are all enjoying this morning's keynote sessions. I certainly enjoyed the MRF Summit earlier this morning with the kickoff of Israel and Procter & Gamble, and now again learning about the history of waste collection within New York City. Our next keynote speaker will take us to the management aspects of our work lives. We will be exploring a workforce trend that you just can't ignore. Tom Morrison is the CEO of the Metal Treating Institute, and he is a nationally sought-after speaker on the new Uberization economy. Tom's presentation brings an energy that will fill the room, inspire change, and motivate to take action. Help me in welcoming Mr. Tom Morrison to the stage.
Thank you, Ashley. I hope you are doing well today. I'm excited to be here to talk about the future with you today. My presentation coming up here. So we have this thing called, extreme disruption out there, and I believe that in the next 20 years, you're either going to embrace it or you're going to disappear. Here we go. It was back here. So we're talking about the future. So as you listen to my presentation the next 45 minutes, I am obsessed with the future, and you're going to see through what we've done in our company how we've been able to deal with that. I believe anybody that looking at the future has to look at it through 3 words, and I call it CUT: change, urgency, and time. The reason change is because it's imperative that you have to be in constant change the next 20 years, because we're going to see more change come in the next 7 years than we're going to see in the last 70. So you have to live in constant change, and you have to have a sense of urgency out there. Why? Because you don't have what I call the luxury of time. If you look at Ford back in 1903, everybody looks at extreme disruption today and says to themselves, wow, things are moving fast today. Disruption is this new thing. Disruption is not a new thing. When you look at 1903, this maverick called Henry Ford developed the automobile out there. But it took 10 years to develop that automobile. Now, you can imagine in 1902, when the automotive dealer, the horse and buggy industry, the top-selling distributor, was sitting in his lawn, and he was brushing his horse, getting ready for the next day's work. And this Model T comes along the road going, "Rrr," and he went, what the heck is that? And immediately his world was disrupted. Here's the key for them, though. They had 10 full years before Henry Ford developed the car in mass production. So 10 years to change your market, 10 years to change how you did business. Today, you have maybe 2 to 5 years to change anything. So the whole thing about extreme disruption is not brand new and has a vibe impact. Now, what I want you to understand is I don't have all the answers for you today, because that's what's happening out here in the crowd and what's happening in the classrooms that you have. But what I do have today is a mindset that you must have walking forward to deal with this thing called extreme disruption. So let's get moving on it. So a little bit more about me. So I am the CEO of the Metal Treating Institute. That's not to be confused with the Mental Treating Institute. It's another association, a whole other conference. I've been around in 22 years doing association management and business management. And I've written 2 books in the last 5 years on personal development. One is called How to Get People to Scream Your Name and Beg for More. It's a book about how to conquer networking and get people to want to do business with you. And the second one I just released in August of this year called The Dash, Making Sure Your Obituary Won't Suck. It's about living in the moment and having a good time and enjoying. Married to a rock star wife, love my life, and I got 3 grown kids who are all self-sufficient, have kids and they're 1 and 2, we got grandkids, and they all have great jobs, married up and spouse. So what do you think that makes me as a father, right? A lot of people say proud. I say it makes me rich again. I got money again when I go to the store. So wife and I live a good life and have good kids. But I do have something before we get into the content. I have this speech impediment that I've had all my life. Like many busy executives out here, my mind thinks faster than my mouth can talk, right? So let me give you a little chance of what that sounds like so you know how to point it out when we're in the middle of the presentation. So I opened the largest singles ministry in Jacksonville, Florida in 2001, had 600 people from 100 churches coming over the course of about 5 years. And when I was at my very first fundraiser, I had 50 business leaders in a crowd like this, and I was talking to them, and at the end of the presentation, I was getting to my close where I wanted to get their support, get them to help out, be a part of the process. And in the back, I could look, and I saw my wife, and she was laughing at me, and I know she was laughing at me, not with me, because I said nothing funny. And I was wondering, what is she laughing at? So at the end of the presentation, I like to get my wife. She's my biggest supporter and biggest critic. I like to get her input. And I got off to the side. I said, baby, how do you think I did with everybody? You think I got their support? She says, man, I had good comments in the back. I thought you did awesome. But then I kind of stopped and I said, but I got to ask you something. Why were you laughing at me in the back, not with me? Because I know I said nothing funny. She says, well, Tom, when you speak, you will say something glaringly off base in the middle of your presentation, and you won't draw attention to it, you won't apologize for it, and you won't correct it. I said, well, what did I say? She said, you got to the end of the tunnel, you were getting them right on the edge of the thing to get them to give, and what you meant to say was, I'm grateful that you are here, and what you said with all your heart is, I'm great, and you are here. So y'all remember that as we go through this presentation. So I'm excited to be here to talk about the future. And the very first thing I want you to take away, there's to be stopping points. I want you to write things down. And the one thing I want you to take away from this slide is it's important to deal with the future of extreme disruption. You need to have a place where you can immediately identify when it's going south, when your business is going south, or when something changes. Just like an airline pilot has a set of instruments that he's looking at so that he can tell when the plane is off course. You can't do that looking at a set of numbers and a time and date. If you look at these numbers, these are our 5 data. I look at these data every single quarter, and when they're off base, I look and say, what's going on that we need to make change? So it's imperative that every company has 6 to maybe 8 metrics that filter down to every other metric. So in this industry, you need to figure that out, and you need to do 2 things. You need to be looking at it on a 10-year time frame, because the 10 years give you past data of what norms can be. And so when you see the current date, you see in the trend, you see, wait a minute, sales went down, pickup loads went down, something went down. What do we do with that? Because if you wait too long to make the change, it could be too late. So it's imperative that you look at your business model, and you look at how you did versus last year and the last 10. But the other thing that you must do is you must be involved in some kind of benchmarking that shows how are you doing against the competition. We've got members in our business, in our industry that say, Tom, I just compare myself to what I did last year. If we're up 5%, that's a great thing. But what if the industry was doing 10% better? You would want to know that, so it's imperative that you have your 6 to 8 metrics so that you can easily identify when things are happening bad like that and have it on a 10-year time frame. So data metrics are critical. Now, what's important about the future? We are changing so fast, and the customer is driving everything. I say every business must have this thing called customer-centric. Everything. Used to, customer-centric was something that was said, but it wasn't as important today. Why is this important? Because even in the solid waste industry, my condo association, I'm the treasurer of it, we're looking at changing out all of our waste disposal stuff, so I'm loving being at this conference, talking and hearing about how that process goes. And some of it's been frustrating, and some of it has not. But the reason you would need to be customer-centric is your brand used to be what you told the customer it was. Your brand today is what your customer tells their friend it is. And so it's imperative that you got a program to make sure that everything you do adds this last thing down here, max value to the customer process, so that I feel like I got value. And where's value come? From this top sentence here. Doing things for your customers they can't do for themselves. You're going to learn later in the presentation, because of robotics and artificial intelligence, that line is being meshed, because robotics and artificial intelligence are being able to do more and more what humans do. So people are selling perceived value instead of actual value. So it's important as people in your industry that you're asking yourself, what is the actual value we bring to the table, to a condo association, to the people we serve, to our customers? What is that value? And the big thing is to engage them in a conversation, whether it's through video, whether it's through your newsletters, social media, and what that value is, so you have constant value, because people change in a heartbeat today. They change in a heartbeat. It only takes one person to go out and post a bad review and a bad rating, and all of a sudden people that see it say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to look at that company. I'm going to go look somewhere else. So it's imperative that you have your value out there in an engaging way, and then do it with some wow factor. I don't know how many people in this room and their companies have a video strategy, but it's imperative that you have a video strategy in your business model. Why? Because I always say a great company with no video strategy is like a steak with no taste. It's imperative that you have a video strategy, because that's how people hear, and the big word is feel your message. If you want loyal customers, they have to feel what you want. So looking at the future, I have every company, I tell them, I say, you need to look, whenever you look at your quarterly business plans, you need to ask yourself, is everything that we've done customer-centric? Are we extending maximum value as a company? Are we engaging our customer? And wow factor. What I want to challenge you to do is, the top execs in your company are not they're not the smartest people in the company all the time. Why? Because they used to be, because they were the highly educated ones. But now, the lowest person on the totem pole in your company is so informed through social media. They know so much about what's going on in their surroundings. I challenge every company to have some kind of a processing that allows your employees to go down and rate you on how you're doing in these areas and find out where the gaps are. So you need to make sure you're customer-centric. So fear, let's talk about fear. Jenna McGregor wrote a great article a couple of years ago. It's still highly relevant today. IBM did a study of 5,000 C-suite executives for Fortune 500 companies. And the number one fear of over 50% of those executives was what's called the Uberization of their business and or their business model. Uberization is defined simply as a product like Amazon or Uber that comes in and does it better, cheaper, faster, and more efficient, and it comes out of nowhere. We're going to look at how fast that changes, but it's imperative. It's a real fear. Why? Forbes just wrote an article a year ago that said that in the next 10 years, Some of you in this room, I think, are Fortune 500 companies. They said in the next 10 years, because of Uberization, 40%, that's 200 companies, 40% are going to either be bankrupt or not here because of Uberization, because used to, the top competed as companies. Now with all the unlimited financing and bigger companies getting into other industries and 18 and 19-year-olds developing products that grow so fast, Uberization is going to start from the ground up, and 40% of those companies are not going to be in business anymore. If you actually are connected to those, how does that impact you as a company between now and 10 years from now? How are you looking at your business models so that you can be prepared as that stuff starts to sift out? So the fear is real, and check how fast it's changing. The workforce, top 10 jobs in 2010 did not exist in 2004. That is amazing quick pace, because you know how long it takes for an industry to develop itself? The top 10 developed in 6 years. And then you look at reaching an audience. It took the telephone 75 years to reach 50 million viewers. Read on down, it took the internet 4 years, Facebook 3.5 years. It took Angry Birds 35 days to reach 50 million people. Think about that. How many of you play Candy Crush out there? You can admit it. Come on, raise your hand, be real. You're playing Candy Crush. That company developed Candy Crush's stock price is soaring through the roof. And in 35 days, all 50 million of those people, new game, they go to Angry Birds, and all of a sudden the stock price of Candy Crush starts to go down. That's how fast the market's changing. Why? Because we're all so connected. People know about the new stuff. They have unlimited options out there. And then look at business models. Airbnb and Uber. This is amazing. Airbnb went from 3 million people to 100 million stays in the course of 5 years. Now, the hotel industry is still flourishing. I'm part of that in hospitality. But think about if the hotel system had 100 new stays, average 3 nights. That's 300 million rooms a year that they're losing out on. They're growing, but man, they're not growing as fast as they once were. And then you look at Uber rides. Uber's gone from 173 million rides in 2014 to 2 billion rides in 2016. That's an amazing growth pattern. And that's not to say it's going to happen in this industry, but you have to be thinking outside. Where could it come from? I've read a couple articles that says the solid waste industry is not really ripe for Uberization, but I tell anyone, when you see some of the stuff that I'm going to show you, I tell everyone the key word walking out of here is never say never. Someone is trying to figure out how to make this industry, like every other one, more efficient, better, faster, and cheaper. So you want to pay attention to that. So why is it driving? What drives it? Uberization is all about money, in my opinion. You look at Amazon. Amazon's in the top 9 industries that drive our GDP. Why? Because they're looking for ways to earn more money and add value to their stockholders. The big companies like Facebook, Google, they're in all these different industries. Elon Musk. Why? Because they see an industry and say, you know what, we can make that more efficient, better priced, and better for the customer. So it's all about showing me the money. And this is a $55 billion industry from what I could gather. So if you could just get 1%, if someone came out with a way to make this industry more efficient, better priced, and better for the customer experience, they'd be a $5.5 billion company overnight if they could pull that off. So money's driving the elements coming at us as an industry. So what is important about today? Every single person in this room, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're a stock company, or whether you're a person working in the office, there is a radar screen going on someplace in your industry. And this is where it gets fun for people. Most people want to give the top 3 execs the opportunity to sit down and do a SWOT analysis and say, where's the threats coming from that's going to impact our ability? Think about it. Your company provides work, you provide jobs, you clean the environment, you provide a lot of stuff, and you don't want to put that at risk in any way, shape, or form by not knowing what risks are coming at you. So there's 3 things driving change today. You have emerging technologies because it is moving so fast. People are actually giving money if you can come up with great technologies in certain industries. So there's this high-end pace to do it. You got the brightest minds from 18 to 30 really driving that pace. Consumer buying habits, because of all the interconnectivity, we have unlimited supply of options. So used to back in the 70s, you had just a few options. Now you have unlimited options and can change on a daily basis. And then you got demographic shifts. I'm going to show you a demographic chart that should send absolute crazy good hope to your group. You're going to see the economy is going to grow like crazy in the next 20 years. But when you're looking at these things, you have a radar that's coming into your business every day going boop, boop. It's just sitting there going around. And the question is do you have it on enough to where you hear boop, boop, and that second thing pops on the screen, and then someone says, you know what, that's going to help us lose jobs, that's going to cause us revenue, that's going to cost us customers. I challenge every owner, if you were smart, you would want to engage every single person in your company to be watching this radar screen, not just the 4 execs at the top, or the VPs, or sales and marketing, but everybody. Provide everybody a way, whether it's through an online survey, or you put up a radar screen in the lunchroom to make it kind of fun and say, if you are watching news, or you're watching social media, or on Facebook, and you see something out there through your eyes of what you do every day, working with our customers, working with operations, working with our company, you say to yourself, you know what? That's going to be a problem for us. We want you to go on our website. We want this link. We want you to go to the lunchroom where we got it written up there, and we want you to write down and tell us what that was so we can take a look at it. So I think it's imperative that you do that so you have an army looking at this change because it happens so fast. So the three things I tell people you got to be paying attention to when you're looking at the threats is you got to determine which ones are controllable, uncontrollable, or influential. I find I do a lot of strategy sessions around the country with companies and associations, and I find they spend so much time talking about what they cannot control that they're forgetting to spend 150% of their obsessed minds on what can you control now and wrap your arms around that and build the best system for that. I say you got to talk about the uncontrollable and write down, if the economy dropped 30% tomorrow, what happens? Or if all of our trucks shut down because they're all electronic and they all shut down, what do we do? Write down what you're going to do in that scenario, the uncontrolled, put it in an envelope, and stick it in the file somewhere. And if it happens, pull it out, break the glass if necessary, and execute. But it's imperative that you look at those things and you focus on what you can control. So that's important for today. Now, this is what many radar screens look like. Everybody's waiting to the last moment. They're refusing to change. And remember what I said earlier. It's imperative that you live in constant change, that you have a sense of urgency. Why? Because you don't have the luxury of time. Now, time is not going to take place tomorrow, but the change that used to be out there that you would walk gingerly to is running at you at rapid pace. So it's imperative that you close the gap yourself by looking at these things. So I have everybody thinks differently about how to deal with change because we're also disconnected in our thinking and communication. So I got a short video that demonstrates how that change can kind of look, how thinking can look.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
You ever had that in your sales and marketing or operations meeting where one is saying one thing and one is thinking something else? It's imperative that, as we've always talked about men and women, that you repeat the question back. So this is what I heard you say. So I think that's something you need to look at in your staff meetings, in your business meetings as well, is making sure that everybody's on the same page. So look at these four companies here. These are four of the major companies that have been just causing great chaos in their industries. You look at Airbnb. Airbnb, who would have thought 20 years ago that people would actually be renting out their own homes, their own condos for people on short stays? No one thought that. And you look at Zillow. Zillow, the National Association of Realtors, has had the biggest LMS system for listing homes for 20, 30 years, right? And Zillow came out and only did one thing different. Now they've evolved, but they did only one thing different. And what was that? Everybody probably knows. They put the Zestimate, what a home's worth. That's what we all want to know, right, when we're walking around the town? We want to know what the home's worth. National Association of Realtors had that opportunity years ago to do that. Why? Because it's all public information in terms of comparables and stuff. So Zillow comes out, and immediately they shot up to the market. So that point of that story is never think the smallest change can't be something monumental, because you got to seek out, and is it what the customer wants? You look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos, he wants to own everything. He wants to own everything. So you got to be careful about if they turn their market and start looking at the solid waste industry and say, you know what, that's something that we think we can put our hands into. They're in 9 of the top 10 industries that drive GDP in America today. Real estate's the only one they're not. So Amazon is coming in with their money. And you look at Uber. Uber was the classic case of market disruption. They came in less than 5 years, absolutely disrupting and are killing the taxi cab industry overnight. And I mean, I was just at a conference in Chicago, and you can see 50 taxis lined up, and people can get them right there. And you got people standing out at the hotel with their phones, waiting 4 to 5, 10, 6 minutes on their Uber. Why? Because they've got this perception about what the Uber experience is that they don't like about taxi cabs. So my question for you to think through today and be asking people in this conference is, what is the wrong? What are we missing in our perception of our industry? What do people think about us? What could someone come in and create a phenomenal customer experience in the waste industry and actually take business away? So you don't want to be a part of that kind of transition. So what happens? Uberization is happening everywhere. You look at these companies. Ford, I just talked about that. They started Uberization back in 1903. PayPal disrupted the credit card industry, Skype communication, Pandora radio. And then you look at the bottom one. Who would have thought that we would have been paying $300 to $700, $800, $900 for a mattress that comes in our home in a box? You pull it out, you cut the plastic, in 24 hours, it's a 14 to 16-inch beautiful mattress. No one would have thought that. The mattress industry definitely thought no one's going to buy a bed they can't lay on first. And they actually missed that mark by crazy. In a short couple of years, they've got on, the mattress in a box now has 10 to 12% of the marketplace, and it's growing like crazy. I've got personal experience because I was sitting in Costco with my wife. We were shopping. Her daughter was in town. We were getting some stuff for her, and I'm leaning on these boxes. And my wife has been complaining about our mattress because it has one of those big foams on the top of it, and it's just uncomfortable. She likes a firm one. So I'm thinking, I happen to look down, like, wait a minute, mattress in a box. What's this like? So I start reading it. I read the reviews. It was good, and it was $3.99 if you bought it that day. We went home with a mattress in a box that day in our back seat. Went home, took it out of the box, cut the plastic, it unraveled. Within 12 hours, it was a nice, beautiful 14-inch mattress. We've had it 3 years, most comfortable mattress we've ever had. Again, never say never. Now, let's talk about wow disruption. I know everybody that's over 50 here is going to love this story. So, fecal DNA test. That's a test that can replace the colonoscopy because it tells you about everything going on in your body. And I know all the 50-year-olds are going, thank God for that. So what you do is you give a sample, you walk in, it's non-invasive, in about 2 weeks they tell you what's going on in your body, as opposed to going into colonoscopy. Gastrologists are out there doing colonoscopies for $1,500 a pop all day long, and my question is are they aware this is even going on? 5 years from now, it could sneak up on them, and they're wondering why colonoscopies are going downhill over the next 5 years, and they're not paying attention. My point of these stories is for you to have a serious notion of change, urgency, and time, so that you're looking around. You can no longer watch this part of your industry and hang out in that part of the industry. Because why? Because of all the interconnectivity, what's going on back at that table could filter its way to this table and change your world in a heartbeat because of technology shift, maybe the demographic shift in your market. It's imperative that you pay attention. And then you look at the big wow change, the toilet. I know in the waste industry, it's connected to the toilet. So the toilet, they've developed a toilet now that when you sit down, this is going to change healthcare in a lot of ways. You sit down and the toilet takes a sample in any way that you go to the bathroom. And what it's going to do is there's a digital monitor on the back, and it tells you all your vital signs at that moment of the day. Think about what that could do to healthcare. It's $2,000, and they're trying to market it where to get it down to $100 a piece. One of those in every household will change healthcare in a lot of ways. So disruption's everywhere. So now I want to talk about the first three. We talked about emerging technologies, demographic shifts, and consumer buying habits. I want to focus in on 4 technologies that are changing everything in our world. And it's imperative that, here's what I know about a room this size. Someone in this room is doing what you need to do. Someone in this room knows what you need to know. And it's imperative that you're talking. I know so many people that go back to the room at 5 o'clock after the little mini reception, and they don't stay out for the next 3 hours and talk about what we talked about today. It's imperative that if you're going to stay ahead of disruption, you saw the graph, our association has grown over 2,600% in 12 years for one specific reason. We have been obsessed with staying in front of change. The only people that get disrupted, the companies that get disrupted, are those companies that refuse to change. And they stay in their rooms, they don't get out, they don't network and talk. Someone in this room is doing what you need to do, and somebody knows what you need to know. It's imperative that you're connecting and asking the questions on the things we're talking about today. So, what's changing? So self-driven cars, I know everybody in this room has probably heard about it, talked about it, but you look at the self-driven car and self-driven technology. I've read where it's coming to garbage trucks and waste trucks going down the road. But let's talk about the self-driven car and connect the dot. So self-driven cars talk to everything around them with sensors and all kinds of mobile technology. But here's what happens. The records show that when self-driven cars come out to the marketplace, it's going to eliminate, in their estimates, 90% of accidents. 90%. That's huge. Right now in the teen years here, we're in the experimental stage. The next decade is going to be about transition. In 2030 and on, we're going to be normal transportation in terms of self-driven technology. So look at these industries. If no one wrecks, the body shop industry is pretty much gone. They got to find another way to do business. I was in a room this size talking to the American Bar Association. When I said when no one crashes, no one what? No one sues. You could have heard a pin drop with the personal injury attorneys in the room. 90% of accidents gone. There's about 5 million accidents, 37,000 deaths. That's a lot of people that doesn't get to sue. Medical care, 35% of medical care, bottom line, comes from accidents. The Southwest Hospital Association exec stood up and said, Tom, this is a problem for us. And we're trying to figure out how to do it. If accidents go away predominantly, we got to figure out another way to pay our bills. Organ transplants, not many people know this. 20% of all organ transplants on the waiting list come from auto accidents. You wipe out 90% of the auto accidents. My goal with these stories is to help you connect the dots, to really think big and large, because something going on over there could impact you and you not even think about it. Why? Because you focused on your own little world and didn't get out and understand. So organ transplants, that could be a bad thing, but I'm going to show you how 3D printing can help solve that. You look at city governments. Now, a lot of people say this is a good thing. Self-driven cars are not going to speed. It's going to be controlled traffic. So all of you that leave, with a 20-minute drive, when you only got 10 minutes to get to work, you're going to have a problem. You'll be late all the time because they're not going to speed. So, but city governments, there's no more speed traps. So they're going to have to find a way to earn new monies. And you look at DUI schools, same thing. It'd be great to get in a car, at 1 o'clock in the morning when you've been out with friends and just say, take me home, and not have to worry about it. Now, here's one that says the unintended consequence of what can happen good to industry. So the alcohol industry, the beer, wine, and alcohol industry. When you go out to a happy hour, right? You got an hour and a half you're going to be there. You got to go home to the kids and stuff and the wife or the husband. What do you have? You have maybe one drink. Why? Because you got to drink. You got to drive home, right? If you never have to drive home because you get in an automated car, guess what you're going to do? You're probably going to have like 5 or 6 drinks. So the alcohol industry is dying for that to come on. They're like, man, now they're not going to stand up here on the stage and promote it, but they love when I'm up here, right? Because I'm telling them how awesome it's going to. So self-driven cars is going to cause positive things for a lot of people. You look at gas stations. Self-driven cars, you drive your car 5% of your daily life. When you look at hours driven divided by 24 hours, it's about 5%. If one car takes 10 of you around that day, and you don't all 10 have cars, you have one car, guess what? The gas station industry has a big problem because that's one fill up, not 10. Break it down another level. I said this to WEX, the largest gas-producing credit card in the country. And they're like, my gosh, we never draw that down. One fill up instead of 10, that's one time they get credit card processing. So you got to drill this down, payment processing. And you look at car insurance companies. Now, they've turned this into an opportunity. Geico did a study that said that for every one car shared, 14 come off the road. That's a big deal to automotive manufacturers. One car share, 14 come off the road because it's driving everybody around. So they turn an opportunity. Instead of insuring cars, they're going to insure people no matter what car you're in. So they just created a $300 million, because there's 300 people in America, 350 million. They just created an opportunity. Then you look at sign companies. Sign companies got a huge problem because guess what? Self-driven cars, for all you, the baby boomers that like to look out and nod at your phone and look at the roses and smell the coffee in the morning, self-driven cars are going to have digital monitors for screens. They're not going to be windows in self-driven cars. They're going to be closed in with digital monitors. Well, guess what? If you're the big billboard sign companies out there and that goes away, advertisers are not stupid. They're going to say, you know what? We're not spending our money with you. We're going to spend them with the car companies to put our money in those digital monitors. So just one piece of technology, 10 industries with bad things going down to them. My question with self-driven technology, what does it mean to you? You need to talk about that throughout this conference so you can get ahead of it. So now let's look at 3D printing, another technology. This is something I'm not sure what the big impact will be to you, but the element is to show you the impact. My industry is the heat treating industry. Our members in a scientific process heat treat metal parts. They're all in the trash cans, everything that you would see in metal in this industry. My members at some level heat treated that. I was just at Moog Aerospace talking to them, and they just showed us their big additive manufacturing 3D printing division that they've just started. It hit me in the middle of talking to him what's going to happen. See, right now what happens is a component in an automobile or a plane may have 75 parts that are developed, manufactured, and sent out for heat treating. Heat treating makes things stable, sturdy, and long-lasting, right? So they send out the 75 parts, they come back to the aerospace company or the automotive company, and they build that big component from the 75 parts. So they sent that out to maybe 9 of our members to heat treat all those 75 parts. So guess what happens? I asked him, I said, so he mentioned something, he said, Tom, what 3D printing does for us is it allows us to print all the 75 parts as one component. Think about that, one component. Now they only need one heat treater, not 8. And the first question that came to my mind, well, now that you only have one component to deal with, does that mean you'll even take and buy the furnace and stick it in-house and quit outsourcing because that's part of the conversation? Now we got nothing. That's a huge shift in marketplace. Now here's another unintended consequence of 3D printing. The organ transplants. Remember I just told you that 20% come from accidents. Self-driven cars, accidents go away. Well, guess what? Instead of waiting for an accident, in about the next 5 to 10 years, they're already doing it with smaller organs, but what about if they could 3D print a heart, a kidney, and a lung? Think about a day in the future when there would be no waiting list. You come in, you need a heart transplant, you land on the bed, they take a little bit of your tissue, they go back, put the recipe into the computer, and next thing you know, a week later, they've printed out a heart that comes in that's not rejected, and boom, you walk out with another 25-year lifespan. That's the kind of thing that this disruption is causing. Disruption is taking away, but disruption is also giving back to the marketplace. And the question for you is, what is it doing in our industry? So then you look at the next one we're talking about, is artificial intelligence and robotics. I think this is the one that's going to play huge ramifications in this industry. So artificial intelligence and robotics really take place when there's no real human interaction, where the computer can do all the thinking for the human, repetitive motions like picking up trash cans, doing whatever, and or do it yourself. A lot of consumers want to do things themselves, so they buy or hire a robot. And you look at service industry robots, LG, a Korean company, has already developed 3 robots to do these 3 things. I've seen that in Minneapolis. A human does it, but you sit down in an iPad, no matter where you're at in the airport, you punch in what you want to eat and your drink, and in 15 minutes, that thing pops up by a human being from somewhere. Well, that's going to now turn into a robot that does that, because look at these service industry robots. They've had robots that's been developed that deliver food and drinks in airports. They handle check-in and check-out at hotels that you check into. I don't know if any of you ever been to New York to the Yotel. I walked in there for a conference, gave the bag to this, checked my bag into this robot, and then you went over to a kiosk, put your credit card in, it verified who you were and everything about your room, and then shot out 2 keys at the bottom, and you walked upstairs. You didn't have to touch a human unless you wanted customer service on the 4th floor. That's what's coming to deal with the lack of labor shortage, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And then customer inquiries at grocery stores. So robotics is really, really going to be big in a lot of industries. And here's the thing about robotics. People say, Tom, that's a lot of jobs that's wiping out. You could be thinking that's going to wipe out jobs in our industry. Here's 4 new industries. The automotive industry is going to tail down, and robotics is going to be the new automotive industry. In your industry, robotics are never going to take the place of people, because you're going to have people operating 3 robots that do 3 times the work as they do with a joystick. So here are the 4 types of jobs being created by robotics. You got builders. Robotics aren't going to build robots. People are going to build robots. They're going to have trainers. Trainers are the person that you hire in your company or you outsource to that teaches the robot you want to buy with artificial intelligence how to take the algorithms and the data you want so it thinks it's about as close to a human as you can in your business model. Trainers are going to get that program right in their brain, in the robot's brain. Then you're going to need to have explainers. Explainers work for you and help make sure the robots continue to do the right things as your business market changes. Sustainers are the people you outsource to or have in your business that's going to make sure as the market changes, they change the stuff in the robot's algorithms to make sure that your robots are always on plan with your market and how you do business. So these are going to be 4 ginormous industries. So when you're looking at your friends and their kids, and they may be working retail or they're growing, you need to tell every retail person, you need to find the skill sets that you're going to have and go to technical school or do something that fits into these, because this is going to be a massively growing market in the next 10 years. So I'm not going to spend a lot on blockchain, but I always make people aware of blockchain. Blockchain is going to be the next wave of the internet technology. Blockchain is very simple in that it creates a ledger of transactions. It's kind of what Bitcoin operates on. But every one of these tables in here could be in the blockchain in the solid waste industry. And y'all have a computer server. Normally the way things work is I have a computer, and you're all dialing into me in one place to get money, and I send you back a copy of the information you want. The way blockchain works is everybody here has all the information that's on my computer, everyone. In order for anybody to change the information in the blockchain and create a new block, which gives you a historical timestamp, it has to go out and be authenticated and approved by more than 60% of the people in the blockchain. If it's approved, then everybody has the same information. That makes it hack-proof, because you can't just hack me. I have to then come in and hack every computer that's out there, every part of the server. So it's hack-proof, and it automates trust. When you don't have to verify from a person that 1 + 1 = 2, when you can just send it out to the computers and they confirm it, that's what blockchain does. So blockchain is going to do away with every intermediary, loan officers, anybody that's confirming, auditing, or checking information. Those industries are going to be wiped clean in the next 10 years. So you want to go out to YouTube. There's about 30 hours of video that you can watch on YouTube to give you everything you need to know about blockchain to see what the impact it could be in your industry. So now let's talk about demographic shifts. I love this slide, because it really tells us that we're going to be okay as a country. Because why? Because you got the millennials and you got the baby boomers. The Gen X are very important too, but you can see this big dip. This is the birth rate since 1925. And what I want you to take away from this slide is these 3 things: economic driver, the rule of 33 and 73, and workforce development. So economic driver, we're on the front cusp of the largest economic boom we've ever had in our history. Why? Because in 1978, the baby boomers were 33 years old, just like the millennials today. The 80s and the 90s that came after them were the largest economic growth times in our history. Why? Because they entered the highest earning years of their life for the next 20 years. Guess what? The millennials, the oldest one, is 33 right now. When we hit the decade of the 20s and the 30s, when all the millennials get into that, you got 100 million of them running at us. They're between 7 and 33 right now. Now, some of those engulf some of the Gen Z they're talking about, but when they all get into the marketplace in their 30s and 40s, the economy is going to drive. Now, here's what I want you to be aware of. If you look over here to the right, there's a dip. They're predicting because you can predict. The reason the economy, the last 6 or 7 years, 2009 to 2015, took a shot, is because there weren't a lot of Gen Xers. There weren't as many in the marketplace in 30s and 40s driving the economy. There were 10 million fewer of them buying everything under the sun, so the economy kind of floated at 1 to 2% because there weren't as many people buying what we bought over time. So enter the millennials. When they all get into the workplace and start earning money, the economy should flourish. Everything that's in front of 33 and 73-year-olds, housing, medical devices, you want to ask yourself in your industry what the 33-year-old buying habit is going to be like and what a 73-year-old habit. Because why? Because there's so many of them. And the great thing about the 73-year-olds is they're keeping people in their 70s alive into their 90s more than ever before. When you can add 18 to 15 years on someone's lifespan and have their money coming into the economy, that's massive. So the next 15 to 20 years should be really, really good. And the question is, I tell people, is you want to study 30s and 70-year-olds and figure out what are they buying? Is it housing? I mean, to get rid of waste in the next 20 years is going to be a booming business because there are going to be so many houses. There's 25 million, there's a shortfall of 25 million houses right now to suffice this growth right here in America today. So the housing market's going to boom. And then you look at workforce development. I always ask people in a crowd like this, how many of you have had someone that's teachable, trainable, wants to work and has a good work ethic and qualified, walk into your company and say, I want a job? And this one guy always stands up and says, Tom, that's a freaking unicorn. They don't exist. They don't exist. And here's what I want you to go home and rest easy at. There are no more people to hire that match that. There are none. They're all working. At 4% unemployment, they're all working. So it's imperative that you go back to your offices and figure out how do we automate, whether information or process. So how do we automate that? And the big thing is you're competing with Uber. Uber drivers make about $15 to $20 an hour every time they step in their car. They have 1.5 million drivers right now. And instead of working in plants or working for you or working in manufacturing, a lot of those people that were doing technical jobs like that, they're working for Uber, driving around in a paid-for car, tax deductible, and enjoying life with low stress. And some of them are doing the hustle thing. They're working 20 hours someplace else and 20 hours in Uber. So that's another drag on this workplace system that we didn't have before. If 1.5 million people were in the job market, some of us would have those jobs. So it's very important that you study this here and understand what it means in terms of demographics. So the opportunity is the Internet of Things. As that growth happens in the next 20 years, it's imperative to get with your teams and ask yourself, everybody thinks the Internet of Things is all about online, and it's not. It's taking people, machines, process, technology, and data, and meshing them together to create what you could be called as an Uberizing in your industry. How well are you using all the people in your company? How well are you connecting the machines? How well is your process for moving, process from one place to the other? How well are you moving these 4 things in Industry 0.0 to make your company the most efficient in the world? It's imperative you check that out. So now I want to talk about consumer buying habits. Because we have so many options, people change how they buy and what they buy in an instant. And it's imperative that you understand the consumer buying habits in your industry. And this is just a few that are going on right now. Responsive retail, giving someone, my wife, will go buy a cup of coffee because she gets a free cup of coffee on the 5th one. Do you have any kind of responsive retail going on? Swap commerce. Swap commerce is instead of us buying something, we find each other on a site for barter like Match.com. We match up what we like in terms of our product. I might like this gentleman's car. He likes my car, same equity, and we just swap them. Here's the danger. In swap commerce, nothing's made, so nothing grows. You're just changing products. So the point of this slide is for you to think about what consumer buying habits are going to change that causes our industry to grow or to dissipate. You want to make sure that you're not running down the street and 5 years later, you're like, why is sales down? Why are things happening negatively? And it's because you didn't pay attention to how the consumers are wanting to buy stuff. I always say consumer buying habits are like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it when it's there, when it's powerful. So you want to be ahead of that. So I've got a little short video that kind of shows what happens when you miss the opportunity of grabbing when consumer buying habits change to your favor.
Instead of DJs, we call them VJs. So what do you think?
Music on TV Just music, a whole TV channel.
How about a food channel? You got that in your pocket?
Hey, I got one. How about a weather channel?
It's raining.
That was a missed opportunity.
You know, in the early 90s, somebody walked into the Uber, in the taxi cab industry and said, hey, I think we could take an app and make an app and have regular people take regular people from point A to point B, and they probably did the same thing. That's never going to work. We have the largest dispatch unit in the history. We have the largest network of cars. There's no way that that's going to take place. So, again, I say never to ideas. Now I want to turn forward as we get about 4 or 5 minutes here, and I want to just share with you why Uberization happens. We've been asking the wrong question to owners and people for years. We've been asking them, what keeps you up at night? What keeps you up at night gets an answer of why are you frustrated with your business model? Somebody's going to say, I can't find good people. Well, you can't find good people because you're cheap and have no benefits. That's you. That's about you. That's not what's wrong with your company. When you walk in and look at your business, you want to ask yourself, where's the friction? This is what you should be talking about for the rest of this conference. Where's the friction, anxiety, and stress in our business? And what could be developed that could reveal? I didn't know I didn't like taxi cabs as much until I actually got in my first Uber. And the moment I got out of that car, I said, I will never take a cab unless it's an absolute necessity. I mean, that's just how I felt. Because it removed all the friction, anxiety, and stress I had about being in a cab. So you want to ask, where's the friction, anxiety, and stress in these areas? You want to ask, so where's it at in our product? Where's the friction in dealing with the waste product? How does that happen? The delivery of that product. How are you delivering your services? Where's the friction, anxiety, and stress in that? The customer experience. This is number one because of all the ability for customers to communicate. Where's the friction, anxiety, and stress in customer experience? Your operations. How do you use lean manufacturing? How much waste do you have in your operations that causes for your product to be price heavy because you're high on manual labor? And then your work culture. Work culture, if you're going to connect in with the younger generation, work culture is the number one thing they talk about and want. They're talking that they take less money to get a phenomenal work culture that's digitized, gives them great work environment, is flexible, but they want to accomplish. I mean, they want to work from 10 to 10. They don't want to work from 9 to 5 or 7 to 4. So it's imperative that you look at your workplace culture, because here's the thing. You may say you don't have a culture, but every single person in this room, every company has a culture, whether you like it or not. And the question is, are you paying attention to it? And you want to embrace that, because when you find out where the friction, anxiety, and stress is, you want to go back to this slide right here and then ask yourself, how do we use people, machines, process, technology, and data to close the gap and fix that and give yourself the perfect company? Because people are removing themselves from doing business with one company because there's friction. And they're coming over to do business with another company because they have satisfied that friction in their minds. So technology can play the massive role because it removes the friction fast, as I told you with Uber. It gives you real-time analytics so you can do one thing. You have so much data now that you're collecting, you can literally predict the future with great precision if you get the right data focused on the right elements with the right metrics that you're looking for. So it's imperative that you really look at your technology strategy and the data collection that you do with that. And so turn 4 here, I want to give you 4 things I think you must do in order to win the day and be in front of disruption. Remember, people that don't change are the ones that get run over by disruption. So the number one key is living in a constant mode of innovation. What is that innovation? We make innovation so complicated. And I think it's not complicated. It boils down to 3 things. What is desirable to our users? What do your customers want? Talk to them enough to understand. Talk to the people that are actually doing the work. Don't just sit up in the high level of the Eiffel Tower and try and figure it out. Talk to everybody on your team. What do our customers want? What are they telling you? How can we deliver that? And then what is viable in the marketplace? What is the right cost? Never sell somebody what they need or what they want, because it's always too expensive. Sell them what they're willing to buy at a quality level that you can live with, and then let them spend money on you for you to then ultimately convince them you need to upgrade to what you really need. That's the key to getting to the customer and getting to innovation. You just want to find what's desirable, what's viable, and then with no more people to hire. You got an 8-year problem, folks. Don't walk out of this room thinking 2 years, this problem's over. It's an 8-year demographic problem. There are no more people to hire that are qualified and have a good work ethic. They're not out there. They're all working already. You got to steal them. So what is possible with technology? How can you grow your business 50% in the next 10 years, 5% a year, that's 50% without adding any more people hardly to your business model? Second thing is implementing smart technology. It's imperative that you're connected with your suppliers, with your supply chain, and it's vitally important that you're collecting data that can help you understand when disruption is about to occur to you. You can do that. That's why we live on the front edge of Uberization, because we've grown 2,600% because we have run in front of Uberization our entire last 12 years. So how are you connected with your supply chain, and how are you connected with your customer, and how are you using it to predict the future for you? So you make good decisions. And the key to making decisions is right here. This is a slide in one of my books. You need to make change on the fly. The once-a-year business retreats and determining what we're going to do next year is gone. If you're doing that once a year, you're going to be Uberized in a heartbeat. You need to be looking at your business plan and your financials and your trends at least once a quarter minimum in a big way. Not just looking at it going, hey, it looks like we're doing good. But looking back and going, you know what? Does our business decision, the sideways why? This is decisions, good or bad. Are the decisions we're making align with the goals that we said we want to go as a company? Is the money we're spending align with the goals we said we wanted to be in 5 years? Are the people in charge of that working it? Are they in alignment? And as the timelines we're using, is it in alignment? When your business is not going like you want it to in a certain area, it always circles back to one or more of these. No, the decisions didn't match up, money's not being spent right, time's not, or people. It's one or more of those decisions, and you simply need to look at that. But you got to make those decisions on the fly. And then the last thing is this is kind of a summation. I'm a guy that likes after a presentation, what I do on Monday. What I do on Monday, because if you implement nothing on Monday from this conference, you have just wasted your entire investment to be at this conference. Wasted it. Now, I get it. Some people, like me, we're on the front edge of things. I walk away, go, I didn't really learn much. It's a confirmation that we're on the front edge of things, but you can always change. So here's your action steps. I think you need, it's called up here, rate, review, create, execute. You need to look at yourself and then say, when we determine our metrics, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are we at collecting those metrics? Ask your employees. Your employees may, say, you know what? We're not buying into our strategy and our plan because, one, you stink at the metrics that we're selecting. They're not the right ones. So rate yourself on how to do all these these things. Review why you're not an 8 or 9 out of 10 for them, and then create solutions that can help you be better at a company as implementing your strategy, and then execute those. So walking away from here, you want to determine your metrics, know the demands of your users, constantly identify your threats, watching that radar, discover that friction, anxiety, and stress, maximize those 5 areas of the Internet of Things, automate as much as possible because of lack of people, and know your data to predict the future with great accuracy. I can tell you, I've been around many, many businesses, and the one that are doing these things right here on a quarterly basis and analyzing it, it's just not one big plan that we look at every year, are having phenomenal success staying in front of their business model. Now I want to end on, man, we live in a crazy, crazy toxic world right now. Just so many people think we're divided. They think the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And I just kind of leave people with a little bit of hope that if you look back since George Washington, the country's always been divided. No president's ever gotten more than 50% more than 60%. We've always just been some sense of a divided country in that respect. And you look at these videos on the History Channel and look at how society's been since the 60s. We've always had bad things going on in our world. And I think that the world is going to be fine. And people are looking for companies of hope and industries of hope. And to me, what hope stands for is people with a hell of an attitude, with an optimism that we're going to win this day, we're going to go through it with the spirit we have, and they have a passion for making a difference, and they have an energy that injects everybody into the system and unifies and bring everybody in your industry to a place that, you know what, our industry is accomplishing crazy cool things because we're unifying all of our members around a purpose of making things better for us. And I want to challenge y'all to do the same thing. So remember, someone in this room knows what you need to know. Someone is doing what you need to do to transform your industry and to transform your company and live the day and win the Uberization battle in the marketplace. I hope you find it. I will be up here down stage right for a little bit. Anybody that has any questions or wants to come hang out and chat, I would love to talk to you. I thank you for inviting me to be here today, and I hope you've gotten a few things good out of this presentation. Thank you so much.
All right, I think Tom today gave us a lot to think about when it comes to the disruptors that are kind of approaching within the industry. And I think we should all take this challenge of continuing the discussions as we're here today at the conference. I'd like to also let everyone know that the award ceremony will start in about 15 minutes. Thank you.